Jacob. How's it going? Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. My name is Edson Ochoa, and I am the co-host of this podcast, part of the redundancy. And for some reason, oh, there we go. I was like, for some reason, my Stream Deck wasn't working, but that was because the other transition still hadn't finished. But yeah, how's it going, everybody? There's a lot to talk about. We've got two games to talk about. We have the last Saturday's game against Detroit City FC, and just right now, in the last couple of seconds, like right before we went live, the Open Cup match between RGV FC and South Georgia Tormenta FC has just finalized, and RGV FC lose and are eliminated from Open Cup against the current USL League One champion, which is South Georgia Tormenta. Obviously, today, we've got my good friend and co-host of the show, Jacob Young. Jacob, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Looking forward to talking soccer. Whether or not it ruffles some feathers, who cares? But yeah, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk some soccer, and it should be a fun one. Because yeah, so much to talk about.
So we've got we actually got real quick. We already have our first shout out. Christopher Michael Gill, howdy from New York City, and says hi to you. Says hi, what's good, Jacob, and go Jets.
Jets, Jets, jet up, take flight, all that fun stuff. How you doing, Michael? Long time, no talk, sort of.
So last week was a very I don't want to say it was controversial, because really I don't think any of the topics that we touched up were controversial. But apparently it did ruffle a couple of feathers here and there. And I just wanted to make a quick reminder. I retweeted something. I was telling you, Jacob, right before we went live, that there's a similar situation going on with the Tigres podcast, where they put out a video where they're saying that they touch upon the topics in the podcast that apparently didn't go well with the Tigres FO. Tigres FO said, had made comments to them saying that they were talking out of ignorance, right? So that podcast, Solo Tigres, put out a video and said, look, if you guys believe that what we're talking about needs some more information, or the way we're saying it is not how it is, the platform is open. And the only thing I'm going to say regarding last week's episode is the same thing for us. If front office believes that what we're saying is incorrect, or they feel needs some more explanation, the platform is always open. Reach out to us. You guys know where to find me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. A couple of people within the FO have my phone number. So reach out to me. We can schedule a time, or we can run into plans. So if you being on the Down in the Valley show, give your thoughts, give your point of view, give your clarifications on things we've said wrong in episodes before. I mean, we're not gonna close the door, right, on fair coverage on this team, right? There's a lot of things that we talk about that's opinion based, right? But the fact based, information that we do give out, if there's something wrong that we're saying, let us know. I mean, I think we've kind of do have a track record of when we've said something that was incorrect. We've gone out, whether it's on social media or on the next episode of the Down the Valley podcast, where we clarify, right? We said this, but in reality, this is the way it goes, yada, yada, yada. Y san se acabó. Everybody goes their own merry way peacefully. The fans, that watch the show, they benefit because they get the information the way that it should be. I'm not here to, give out any fake news or anything like that, or I don't have a specific agenda. I don't even have an agenda to write down the stuff that I'm going to do on my day-to-day basis. But the point is, if for some reason FO thinks, like I said, we say something that is incorrect, you can always reach out to me. you can always reach out to Jacob, and we will do our best, to get it correctly, it right, that make sure that it is the truth, or at least their point of view. That way we can understand what's going on. But I will point this out. Everything Jacob and I said last week, we do not regret saying it. So that everything, we stand by what we said last week, and we continue to affirm that situation this week. None of that is going to change. I think everything we talked about last week was straight from the heart. And I know a couple of fans reached out after the show and said that, that discussion was necessary. It was necessary for the fans to kind of understand what the situation is, to vent our frustrations on how this team is being run. So I think FO also cannot turn a blind eye on that situation. I am extremely, I'm extremely flattered that RGV FC front office does watch our show. I'm very, really flattered. And by the way, hi guys, I'm right here. But I'm extremely flattered that they take the time to listen to our show. So just to let you know that, yes, I'm wearing the shirt that you gave me, but that does not mean that I'm going to turn a blind eye and criticize what needs to be criticized, both on the field aspect and, of course, on the front office aspect. So, si les agrada, con madre, si no, pues ni modo. All right. I'm not going to change my way of thinking just because people in the front office aren't exactly happy with, with what I say or what I do, as long as I, like I said, number one, give you a fair opportunity for a rebuttal. And number two, I'm not here, blatantly divulging misinformation about anything regarding the team. I think I personally, speaking for myself, have tried to say, if there's something that I do know for sure, I will let you know. And if there's something that I don't have 100% an idea, I say it right away. Look, this is my opinion, or this is how I think it's happening based on what we can see. We talked about the lack of information. So, I'm not here to completely, just pile on the team, So just wanted to just say that right off the bat, just as a quick reminder for anybody that's listening to the show.
Yeah. I don't regret saying a word. In fact, I think I was the more positive guy on the other end, funny enough. But that's not saying a lot, because it was, it was an honest show. But yeah, here's to kind of moving on from that week, because, we got a little bit of happier news to talk about, Edson, from Detroit City. Crazy enough, I got to watch the game, and I didn't expect to end up watching the game because it was supposed to start at 3, but thank you, rain, for coming through and flooding the field.
Yeah, and I was about to ask if you wanted to start with the good news or the bad news, mostly because the bad news is just so recent. But now that you brought up, the Detroit City match, let's go ahead and talk about it. So just real quick, Alan Carrillo says, "Do you guys work for RGV FC?" No, we don't.
Nope.
No, not at all. I have my own full-time job as a developer, as a programs developer. Jacob has his own job as well. We don't work for RGV FC, and let's be honest, they probably would not pay me enough to work for the team. Not saying that that working for the Toros is terrible, but more than anything, I think with my career, I think it would be almost impossible for a USL Championship team to be able to pay my at least my current salary. So obviously it's a dream to work for the team, but at the end of the day, I'd rather be independent rather than be kind of tied to the team, because when being tied to the team, when you work for the team, you're obviously limited to talking about the positive things, not necessarily the negative thing. I think it's rare when either a official team podcast or when you've got a member that's working for the team. I think it's very rare when they allow them to be objective, when they allow them to say what they think, with the positive or the negative. So the fact that we do this on our spare time, we do this for the love of the team, independent on with the front office or anything like that. We do this for you all. So just short, no, we're not. We are not employed by the team at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no way, shape, or form are we employed by the team. Yeah, I'd say we'd probably be fired if we were to ever say something like that, if we were hired by some team. Because again, yeah, you're supposed to be positive about the team always, no matter what's going on, apparently. And it's true. And if anything, I mean, sorry, but I'm going to bring him up. JT is a great example. Look, after every single match for the media, JT, or after every press conference or anything like that, JT has to transcribe all those comments made by either Coach Wilmer Cabrera, Tyler Derrick, Max Wright, whoever is on our team. Basically, he has to transcribe those. So even if it's a little miniature story, because he has to post it to the USL, that's as close to any, like, he cannot say any opinions in that as well. So it's basically staying as unbiased from either side as possible and not giving his 2 cents into anything. He can probably say it off stream or not without any cameras involved, but it's true. And so, yeah, that's as close as you will get to being able to say anything like that.
And and Alan says, then you guys don't know them anything. Yeah, we don't know them anything at all. And I think we've made it clear to front office. We've made it clear to players, coaches. Yeah, we can probably say like, hey, you guys, kind of messed up, or this was a little bit too harsh, blah blah blah. Okay, but as far as opinions, like we're not going to sugarcoat things. But I think we're spending too much time on this whatchamacallit.
Yeah, we got happy things to talk about. I mean, everybody knows it's a Detroit City W. We slayed Motor City, which is fun to talk about. How we did it is even crazier, in my opinion, too, because scoring a goal on the road, getting your first victory on the road. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but it is true. That is very, very exciting to know that this team is ready to play on the road if necessary.
Yeah, so let's talk about that game, and we'll get. I know there was a comment from Facebook regarding this game against South Georgia Tormenta, but we'll get to that once we get to it. But anyway, so going up to this match against Detroit City FC, if you guys remember from last week, I was not very optimistic about it. Well, number one, we have an offense that really isn't generating much. Number two, we've only let in 3 goals in 3 matches, but at moments the defense looked a little bit sketchy, especially when it came to counterattacks, right? So now you're going to Detroit in a very hostile environment where you've got, I think, some very passionate supporters groups with Northern Garden supporters that they think that they're the last Coke in the desert. That's a different story. But anyway, but the things for me looked bleak when it came to this match. Historically, Detroit City FC is a team that has kind of climbed up through the ranks, playing through outside of the USL. I want to say they came in from Nisa. And then they came into the USL Championship. They're kind of like the exception to the rule, where Detroit City FC is partly funded by the fans themselves, partly owned by fans themselves. So they bring in a new point of view, a new way of running things to this team. They had a decent season last year, and going into this year, things that looked a little bit shaky for them. They were missing some key players as well. And so it was going to be a very tough environment. You always talk about the weather before before we give our predictions of the upcoming matches. Mm-hmm. And right off the bat, this game was originally supposed to be airing at 3 p.m., right? And then all of a sudden, you've got these line of storms coming through. The stadium gets flooded, so they delayed until 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. actually, 6 p.m. local time. They delayed it. So that gave a lot of people more of an opportunity to watch the game. But right off the bat, Jacob, it looked like RGV FC maintained a little bit of consistency when it came to the lineup. I think the only difference was because the formation stayed the same at how they ended, which was a line of 5. 2 midfielders and three attackers. I think the only difference was Eric Kinsner replacing Eric Pimentel, who, as you all know, got a dumb red card against Monterey Bay Union FC.
Yep. Yeah, that was fun. And I mean, going into it, even seeing the roster, seeing the lineup with the line, the basically 3-4-3 lineup, a classic tale of the Toros lineup, kind of. I mean, it's missing a little bit of consistency, but I thought it was kind of consistent there, and I didn't see any problems. Of course, Cabrera Jr. out left wing, Ricky Rees in the middle, Francois on the right, Coronado, Torres, Davila, Ricketts. Basically, I expected to kind of see this lineup for sure, because we only have so many veterans, especially on this team. The team seems to get, like we talked about, smaller and smaller with how many veterans. And then, of course, Tyler Derrick behind goal, because of a lot of bench warmers that are still very young and trying to develop as best as possible, which I think they will be able to do. It will just take them some time. So, yeah, it wasn't too much of a shock. It was not shocking that Team Intel's replacement, I know it will get into more of the game, was Kinsner, and he, to me, looked pretty good.
I think he's been decent. We'll talk about a little bit more about the stats overall. I think, based on FODMAP, he looked decent defensively. However, he needs to improve with his passing. And that is going to be a topic that is not going to be the first time we're going to be talking about today. But moving on into the game, so there was another aspect of the weather that was going to play a huge factor, Jacob, and that was the high winds. And they were all blowing. Those high winds were blowing towards the goal that RGV was going to defend. So it was going to be very, very key for, number one, to minimize the amount of balls in the air as much as possible when it came to RGV. They're going to be kind of forced to kind of play the ball at the ground level. Number two was going to be defending long shots, defending shots from outside the box. There were multiple times where the ball made some strange movements. I believe there was one, Jacob, I don't know if you remember, it was a corner kick that took a strange bobble in the air because of the wind. And Tyler Derrick was pretty much close to miscalculating that inside the box, but he was able to recover and get a hold of that ball. So it was those kind of things that were going to be very, very important to take into consideration in this match. Now, early on, to me, RGVFC looked split. You're talking about 5 defenders in the back, 3 attackers up front, and you only have 2 midfielders, Gringo Torres and Taylor Davila in the middle. Surprisingly, also, you started to see that RGV, where at times they wanted to go long as well, so they would bypass, the midfield at times. Detroit City FC, however, they did want to take advantage of the wind, trying to find, crossing the ball to the other side of the field, trying to find the long ball. But they were very unsuccessful. They were very unsuccessful with the one-on-ones with Jonathan Ricketts. I know there were multiple times where the passing was just atrocious for Detroit City FC. I think, in fact, in the whole first half, Detroit City had 0 shots total on Tyler Derrick's goal.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing with just that stat line alone. You talk about it, how well the defense has been able to do throughout the season. Yes, giving up a goal in each game, maybe not necessarily having that 90 minutes in them to start the season off, but really always having that strong start to not allow a goal kind of going through or being alert and awake from the start. So that was a key thing for RGVFC to really stay in it. I mean, this is not only Detroit's hostile atmosphere, you have that win to your advantage in the first half. You expect Detroit to take advantage of it. And that is, I mean, as best as you could hope to happen, is just Detroit City not being able to control it.
Yeah, and the first half, honestly, like, RGV looked solid defensively. Like I said, they didn't have a lot of shot opportunities in the first half. Right now, I am looking at the USL website, right? And I think in the first half, Detroit, I think, only had 2 blocked shots and 1 shot off target. So they had nothing on target. So just a clarification there. On the other side, you had RGV that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shots in total. 4 of them were blocked. 1 of them was off target, and 2 of them were on target. Now, I do feel that RGV, I know Wilmer had a good play, and to me, and you know how much I've kind of dissed Wilmer Cabrera Jr., but I think that play, the decision making was great. The goalkeeper had an outstanding save to avoid that ball going into the back of the net. And with me, I'm biased in favor of goalkeeper, since that is my favorite position. There's a saying in Spanish that said, like, goalie without a luck is not a goalkeeper, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was one of those situations. However, one of the things that kind of did irk me was that there were many times during the game where there was a lack of connection, a lack of chemistry between the attackers. There were multiple times where, let's say, Davila had the ball and Coronado makes the run, from the wing into the box, and he's expecting the ball to go in front of him, but Davila or Wilmer Jr. sends the ball behind him, and it's like you lose possession of the ball, and then you've got the teammates complaining, "Hey, I wanted it to the front, not to the back," and that kind of thing. There's this asynchronousness. I don't even know if that's a word, but they weren't synchronized with each other, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the goal comes. What was it, in the 23rd minute?
Yeah, 23rd. Exactly.
So we talk about RGVFC and its high pressure, right? Mm-hmm. And you couple that with Detroit City's defense being very underconfident. Like, they didn't have confidence with each other. They would try to pass the ball within the back, and they would see the Toros pressure coming up to them, and they would they would make mistakes in their passing. They would give it away to RGV FC, or they would try to clear it and they would just go to the end to out of bounds. And in that particular play, Taylor Davila takes advantage of that situation where they give the ball away in transition. So I'm looking at the play right now. So what ended up happening was that Detroit City had the ball in the midfield. They tried to pass it back, but that defender or that midfielder was unable to control the ball because his teammate gave it too far back. Right. So even they had problems with chemistry out there. Taylor Davila, gets the ball, starts dribbling. You got Cristiano Francois running out wide. You had Wilmer Jr. on the other side. And you also had a Detroit City defender with very, very conservative defending, just containing, not trying to close the gap on Taylor Davila. So if you notice, is that this defender, when Taylor Davila is coming at him, instead of holding his ground and try to force Taylor Davila one way or another, or to pass it around to somebody else, he just gave him and gave him and gave him, so much area and space in the field. Mm-hmm. What does that do? That gives Taylor Davila time. Raise your head, see where your goalkeeper is, try to find, a little juke to get the defender out of the way, take the shot from outside the box. And that's exactly what happened. It was a shot that was almost impossible to save for the goalkeeper. And that gave RGVFC a lead in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Was such a pure strike from Davila. And yeah, everything that you said was true. He has so much time, so much space, buries it in the bottom right corner. You talk about how close the keeper was to making a save on it. It's pure class with the goal, celebrates with the team, and just even in those 22 minutes, Edson, it seemed like, yes, RGVFC might have had some mistakes in that time, but with the attacks, they seemed pretty much in sync, or pretty much having those opportunities, having those chances, almost taking advantage of those. If it wasn't for the keeper being on his mark for most of that first half before, of course, the goal. So our RGVFC, even after that, is what it seemed like too. Even after Davila's goal, RGVFC have another chance in that goal. Well, a little bit past halftime, but it's still that point of like they were attacking, and that was definitely a plus, because I think we kind of talked about it last week too. We've seen RGVFC being able to attack, being able to have more shots, not necessarily on target, but more shots. So that's definitely improving for RGVFC, and getting that goal just proved that, well, I think the floodgates are slowly opening, which is a perfect example to say we could potentially get more goals here soon.
But what should worry us, and we talked about it last week, is that our goals have come from non-forward players. We've got 2 goals from Davila, 1 goal from Jonathan Ricketts, and then Ricky Reese in the home opener, and that's it. We have not had goals from Wilmer Cabrera Jr. We have not had goals from Cristiano Francois, much less. And by the way, for me, I'm sorry, but Cristiano Francois has shown nothing for me for RGVFC. There were multiple times, even like we're talking about the first half, right? There were multiple times where Cristiano Francois just was unable to beat his marker. He would lose the ball real quickly. The crossing was atrocious, and honestly, the crossing has been atrocious overall for RGV in this game, guys. 11.8% crossing accuracy, and we had most of the momentum in the first half. So there's a couple of problems. Number one, we don't have a number 9, so when you cross, who are you going to cross it to? If you're going to cross it in the air, who are you going to cross it to? In set pieces, well, you're going to have your tall defenders like Nodarse or Jonathan Ricketts or Acque. But in open play, who's going to be there, right? Up high, nobody's going to win. Ricky Reese is not tall. Wilmer Jr. is not tall. Cristiano Francois is not tall. So who are you going to be crossing into? And the crossing for, with, a ras de pasto, level with the ground hasn't been that great either, So we're kind of, honestly, offensively, our hands are tied. And that is the biggest issue. Yes, they are getting shots on goal or they're having opportunities, but our attackers are not able to get those shots past the goalkeeper and into the net. And that's the biggest thing that worries me, having to rely on other players to do the dirty work offensively. Yeah. And until we get our number 9, we don't know who it's going to be. Is Galindres going to be coming in? Is he not? If he doesn't come, who are they going to get? You got Frank Lopez out on injury as well. So our 2 main strikers are not available for one reason or another. We have to make do with a false 9, and it just hasn't been working for us to put those balls in the back of the net. You're going to have to rely on how well the defense is going to perform 90 plus minutes. And there's going to come a time where the defense is going to have a bad game. And how are you going to revert that situation? Well, you can't, because offensively, you have not been able to get those shots into the back of the net. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah, don't worry, everybody. We'll talk about that bad game here coming up. But yeah, I was going to say this. You worry too much, but it's a fair worry. You don't have attackers right now. Attackers are hurt. Attackers can't get over here. Francois has not necessarily produced as much as he could be producing. Whether or not is he used to the Valley yet? Is he used to not being in New York or wherever he once was, Miami?
El Paso.
Point is, wait, say again.
El Paso.
Oh, El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then that's just weird because I'm looking at something that it says on Facebook. Goal by Cristiano Francois. Fantastic. Francois. Miami versus New York.
Yeah, he was in Miami. The thing is that Cristiano Francois has been a player that has not he's not had multi-years with teams. He's always changing year after year.
Well, there you go. That's his problem. His
best years were in Miami. And then with El Paso, it was just a forgettable year for him, and he's trying to recuperate himself under Wilmer Cabrera. And we've talked about what he said in media day, where he felt that the Wilmer Cabrera's tactics would suit him better, but so far we haven't seen that from Cristiano Francois.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's definitely frustrated not to see him performing where he could be performing at. And yeah, this is 5 weeks in or something like that. So yeah, the offense needs to get going a little bit more. But again, it's just, I think, like you said, or not like you said, but I believe that this team can perform well without strikers at the moment. It's just going to take the whole team to instantly be amazing. Like, defenders are going to have to be amazing at shooting the soccer ball in the back of the net. Goalkeepers as well. Again, it's going to happen this season. Mark my words. Tyler Derrick will score a goal. But other than that, the offense has to get going. It does. They do have to get going. More than 1 goal a game, please. Let's average 2 to 3. Just under 3 goals a game would be fantastic for me to say.
So let me tell you Cristiano Francois' statistics in this match against Detroit City.
Oh gosh.
So 83.3% passing accuracy. Okay, that's okay, right? 70% accuracy on the opponent's half in those passes. Duels won 2. Duels lost 5. Aerial duels won 2. Aerial duels lost 2. 0 shots on target. 0 shots off target. 1 blocked shot. 0 successful crosses. 1 unsuccessful cross. Guys, he's our winger. He's the one that technically is supposed to be the player that we're going to be looking out for to generate some chances and try to find the open space to get some crosses into the box, especially when they want to play the counter attack or they want to play long like they've done for the most part, like here when they've played at home. They look for the long ball towards Cristiano Francois. And what have I said the last couple of weeks? Cristiano Francois has lost more duels, or it appears to be on just based on sight alone, not looking at stats, but it just looks like Cristiano Francois has just been very unsuccessful in winning those duels that make a player what they're looking for out of him and his characteristics should be successful. And that is, you go for the ball, you're going to jostle against the defender, win that battle for that 50-50 ball, and try to find some crosses to the striker or to anybody else that's coming in behind them and put it in, so that way they can put it into the back of the net. But honestly, for Cristiano Francois has done none of that. Another thing I've criticized about him, and you saw it in the last couple of games, is that he gets the ball, and instead of looking right away to go, like let's say there was this particular play against Monterey Bay, where instead of going straight to the end line and then try to find the cross, he waits for the defender to get to him, starts doing all these feints, loses the ball, commits a foul, and then he's complaining like, why are you calling a foul? Well, if you don't let the defender come to begin with and you take advantage of the space that they're allowing you when you receive the ball, maybe you wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. So overall, I think I'm ranting so much about him, and I feel it's a little bit unfair. But man, it's like I said, on just in the visual aspect, like he has a lot to be desired out of his performances and what we're looking at for. So, and Wilmer Jr., like I said, I mean, okay, yeah, you see a little bit of an idea out of him, but he's not really generating as what the responsibility is supposed to be for him having the starter position. So we look at his statistics: 2 shots on target in this game, 0 shots off target. So that's good. Just get those in the back of the net as much as possible. That's the thing. Successful crosses 1, unsuccessful crosses 2. Chances created 2. In general, 66.7 passing accuracy in the opponent's half. That I believe needs to improve. Duels won 4, duels lost 8. So when you've got when you've got both of your wingers or your attackers, and let me just get Ricky Reese's just to have a comparison of all 3 of our attackers. Okay, so passing accuracy for him in the opponent's half is the same, 66.7% compared to Wilmer. 5 long passes, 25 short passes. So he's a little bit more active when it comes to, distribution of the ball. Duels won 6, duels lost 7. At least it's close to 50-50. Right? Mm-hmm. So the numbers are better compared to the other 2. Could be better, but I think it's in a situation where at least he's generating something. Aerial duels won 2, aerial duels lost 3. You can't expect him to win a lot of aerial duels because he's not that tall. And we've talked about it before. I'm not saying to diss him. I'm only 5'7" myself. And I've got, I'm short and wide like the pit roads that, who was it? Clint Boyer doesn't like. If you guys watched this last race at Richmond, you guys will understand that reference. But anyway, Ricky Reese, 1 shot on target, 0 shots off target, 1 blocked shot, 0 successful crosses, 1 unsuccessful cross, and 1 chance created. So when you've got wingers that are not generating decent crosses, that they're having trouble with going against, duels out there on the field.
Yeah.
This is why you need to take advantage of those chances that you are able to generate. And like I said, based on the shot count, it's a relatively decent amount. You need to take advantage of those opportunities and put it in the back of the net. We need to stop getting those shots straight at the keeper. And that's been the problem. A lot of the shots that they've done have gone straight towards the keeper. And it's easy for me to say, I'm in this chair, but I think the results speak for themselves. And in this game, we have to think that Detroit City had one of their worst games that I've ever seen out of them. And I haven't seen a lot of their games, to be honest, but it just looked terrible from the way that Detroit City FC fans made the team seem. This is going to be a difficult match, and what we got in the first half was a very, you guys have seen the meme, right, of Buff Doge and then Cheems. So the way that they made Detroit City look out to be was the Buff Doge, but what we actually had in the first half was Cheems. Really, there wasn't a lot of danger on RGV FC in that first half. They were able to, like I said, they were able to get the goal, took advantage of that opportunity, and they were able to minimize the damage, like I said, considering that Detroit City FC had the advantage of having the wind in their favor in that first half.
Yep. Yeah. A lot to unpack there, but yeah, it's crazy how different that game was, definitely, especially with just Detroit City FC being Detroit City. Hostile environment, hostile fans, what they've come off since last year with. And the team, of course, I know we talked about them a bunch, but it still goes back to the same thing, Edson, that they are not a bad soccer team in the slightest, or at least not supposed to be a bad soccer team this season.
In theory, that's the problem. They're not going to be a team that is going to make waves in the USL Championship, but they shouldn't be a team in theory that is going to be a bottom feeder, and that's going to be the issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of shocking teams at the bottom right now in the East. And yeah, Detroit City are one of them. For crying out loud, they almost won the Open Cup a year ago. So, or made that run.
That was Sacramento.
But also Detroit. No, they did not. They're the same colors. I am wrong. I thought Detroit City was this hero team. So I take back everything I said. No, they're just Detroit City, basically what used to be amazing and now just pretty average, except for the hockey team finally coming back. But that's neither here nor there. And yeah, it's crazy. RGVFC getting the win, looking good in the first half, second half. For a team that technically should have come out with a draw, if I'm not mistaken. Detroit City missed this open sitter. In the second half with Derek off his mark. You're talking about a wide open goal, and number 7, which I don't have his number, but I don't have his name.
Leland.
Leland sends it into the concession stand, thankfully. So, stuff for them to work on, stuff for us to work on, but definitely a much more positive thing to look forward to, because we scored a goal and we had a shutout by the Tyler Derrick.
But like you said, we got lucky. Tyler Derrick, number 1, was a beast when he was needed, especially in the second half. Because that's the thing, in the second half, the role switched. Detroit City, despite having the disadvantage of not having the win in their favor, they looked like the more dangerous team out there. Yeah. They were able to get more possession, more chances, more crosses into the box. And unfortunately, there were also some times where, RGVFC, in their attempt to clear the ball out, somehow they mistimed that kick or that header or lo que sea. And the ball ended up bouncing back in a dangerous position to Detroit City. And it's those kind of mistakes that will come to bite us in the butt when we're going up against tougher teams. And that's the thing. That's the mistakes that we need, that this team needs to limit. Honestly, I mean, we talk about how generally RGV FC has looked solid in the numbers. Last season they looked solid defensively, but what did I always say every time last season? 90% of the time they're on fire, and you get the occasional 10% or 5% of the times where they make this glaring error and they lose points. They either drew or they lost because of that error. But now it seems like those miscalculations are a little bit more, they're a little bit more common. And I don't know if it's because, I mean, it shouldn't be because they don't have, there's not enough chemistry between them, because it's basically the same line. Jonathan Ricketts, Nodarse, Acque. I mean, I think the only new player was Eric Kinsner, but then you've also got Robert Coronado. So it's like 4 out of your 5 defenders have played with each other before. So you shouldn't have any issues. And obviously, you as Eric Kinsner, I mean, you're gonna follow what the leader in this case Acque, tells you to do, since you are also a center back. So, fortunately for RGVFC, those mistakes weren't reflected on the scoreline. But holy hell, they were very, very close to getting that reflected. And honestly, for me, based on that second half, I think Detroit City FC deserved the draw.
Yeah, I definitely see that. It's funny, you watch the highlights that the USL put together, and even in the second half, it shows more chances for RGVFC than it did for Detroit, which is hilarious. Like a shot that was just saved barely, and then of course, yes, a couple of chances by Detroit, but it still seemed like there was more. Well, now that I'm looking back at it again, I'm just thinking completely differently, because now I'm just seeing chance after chance after chance by Detroit, and I watched this like 3 times before this show too. So I don't know what I was watching then.
Yeah, because they had 8 total shots. 8 total shots in the second half.
That makes complete sense. Yeah, no. They deserve to walk away with a draw, 100%. And RGVFC's Tyler Derrick, once again, aka me, according to Shadow Wolf, was on top of things, except making one mistake that luckily they skied right before full time.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. It's like, I think we kind of took advantage. Obviously, after the final whistle, I was really happy that we finally got our first win of the season. I was very ecstatic, right? That they were able to hold on. It wasn't beautiful play, but it was a win nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, there's this little details that RGVFC needs to continue to improve, because let's be honest, or at least my point of view is, we took advantage that Detroit City FC has fallen into a rough situation when it comes to their performance. I mean, they looked terrible. They looked terrible in the first half. They improved in the second half, made some tactical adjustments. RGVFC, ends up making some tactical adjustments as well. My number one question was, which Wilber Cabrera made a change by bringing in Juan David Cabezas, was that you had the line of 5, but you only had 2 midfielders, Davila and Gringo Torres. Detroit City was winning the midfield territory. You need at least one more person. And when you've got you got 3 attackers that aren't really helping you, then you need to sacrifice one and put in a midfielder. And that's what he did. However, the questionable thing was that, well, actually, no, because you took out Cristiano Francois, so that was a good substitution. Although I think they made it seem like, Yeah, it was Cristiano Francois that went out to bring in Juan David Cabezas. So that was a good decision. But Detroit City continued to be the better team in the second half. Now there was one play that kind of stood my eye, and that is that save by Tyler Derrick. So if you guys remember, that play originates, and I'm sorry I don't have the video like I have done in the last two episodes. But I'll kind of explain the play, and you can also check out on YouTube the replay or the highlights of this particular game. It's in the 3-minute 10-second mark. So this play starts off of a throw-in favor of Detroit City. The defender or the attacker, gets possession of it at the corner of the 18-yard box. He tries to go around. I want to say that it is Juan David Cabezas. So he turns around on him, manages to get the ball, gets across into the box that is cleared out by the defender, and I think that was Jonathan Ricketts. But so that's where the ball is, because that cross was right in front of goal. But I need you all, when you watch this play, I need you all to pay attention outside the box, right? So Detroit has that ball. Like I said, he turns around past Juan David Cabezas, goes towards the end line and gets that cross. Outside of the 18-yard box, you have Ricky Reese that is right next to number, is that 12? Yeah, number 12 from Detroit City FC. The problem is that this player, number 12, makes that run from outside the box towards the 6-yard box. Ricky Reese sees this, but he doesn't run behind him. And I do not think that he even yelled at his teammate to let them know that he was making the run inside the box. Yeah. Because he is the one that takes the shot, gets the rebound, and takes the shot that Tyler Derrick saves. So there's a lack of communication in some place that are leaving players wide open. And I'm going to assure you, this is not the first time I'm going to be talking about it today, because I'm getting ahead of myself, but we saw the same situation in today's game against Tormenta. But that is worrying, that they're able to allow these players to just run. Yes, I know you're not a defender, but you have to be, I feel like you have to be attentive. And if you see that he's going to be running, alone in the box and nobody's going to get him, well, you yell at somebody or you run yourself. I think it's better for you run behind him and at least make it difficult for him to be clear on goal. Or you yell at one of your teammates and tell him, hey, 12 is running towards you, or go after him. So that's my analysis of this particular play. That stood. That's what I got out of this play. I don't know what you think, Jacob, but it's those, like I said, it's those details that need to be ironed out, and they got to be ironed out quick.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's tough for you to iron out something, of course. Let's say 2 days after you literally were on the road or anything like that. And what I mean by that is basically we have to remember this one thing just from the whole weekend. RGV FC's game was supposed to start at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Due to weather, it gets pushed back to 7 p.m. I'm sure that RGV FC were ready after that game beforehand to just take off as soon as possible to get back home so that they had more time to rest, because of the fact that they knew that they were going to be pressed for time that week to go back to South Georgia. You travel to South Georgia that same day, probably. And
no, I think they came back here and then they traveled to Georgia.
That's my point. Mm-hmm. They did come back here. So you gonna be more tired than you think due to the fact of how much traveling you're going with. Now, that's not the biggest excuse, but my point is you're not able to iron out those details so quickly due to the fact of, well, you're not really going to have a chance to practice before you take right back off to South Georgia. Now, if my eyes deceived me when I was at HEB Park, there's a possibility that they were training or that was a different academy club or whatever. That is a very slight possibility that they did train. But again, you can't just automatically assume that everything is going to be perfect right after that. So yes, those issues that haven't necessarily been worked out or talked to on the training field might still be there. Now, enough with the excuses for them. It's just, yes, those very quickly, now that they're going to be back in the RGV for the rest of this week before probably taking off again, which I don't even realize who
They're going against
RGV
Pittsburgh, but they're off this Saturday.
So they are off Saturday. So they have more time. Yes, they have time to recover and practice and do film and talk to each other about what they want. So yeah, there's more time for them this week, which is a good deal. But yeah, no, time is now for everything to be complete. Everything for these players to be just ironing out all the details, because it's now week 5 and we're approaching very quickly on, I know it's crazy to say, but halfway. I mean, we're approaching quickly on June. We're approaching quickly on May. Next week is going to be the 15th of freaking April, for crying out loud, too. This weekend's the 9th. So it's not like everything is just slowing down. No, this is full force going into the summer for this team, and we're ready for them to win. We're ready for them to quit making the same mistakes week in and week out.
Yeah, and like you said, they had a short turnaround time. You've got today a matchup against South Georgia Tormenta FC in the U.S. Open Cup. And right off the bat, one of the biggest things that I think caught a lot of people, and at least from the Toros fans that were in the chat, off guard, was that at least in the midfield and the attack, you saw a lot of new players. You had Ian Cerro come in. He had Gabriel Benitez, who I'm assuming already got his visa situation squared away. He gets his debut with the Toros tonight. You also saw, let me get real quick the lineup for that game. Thank you, Fatmob. So today, the Toros.
Yeah, I can read the lineup if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we'll start from the back. You don't have your regular keeper. That would be Merancio. I'm going to completely... Yeah, Merancio. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you got Kinsner back in the left back position, Frank Nodarce and Wahab Akwe. And then, of course, Benitez, Cabezas, Davila, Ricketts, Vinceto, Coronado, and Herrera. So it's a pretty decent lineup right off the bat for just the starting team. But yeah, right, just like you said, Settle on the pitch. We haven't seen this man basically all season long, and now he's getting his start, which is fantastic for him to gain that experience, even if it's not necessarily in a league match, but in a match that means something towards especially smaller teams.
Yeah, and the question was brought up in the chat during the broadcast from one of the Toros' fans, and the question was, why did Wilmer Cabrera go with an alternative lineup, considering the fact that the Toros had a bye week this weekend, so they have enough time to rest up for the game against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So for me, and what I replied to him was that I understand Wilmer's point of view and why he wants to do that. This is the perfect opportunity to give a shot for these players that haven't seen a lot of minutes. See what they can bring in once they are in the starting 11. See against a lower league team. Yes, they are the champions of USL League One, and we've talked about that the difference between League One and USL Championship really isn't a lot, you know. But in theory, is you're going against a lower league team. Let's give these players an opportunity to showcase what they've got once they have, and if they can fight for a spot in the starting 11. Now you've got Benitez also that is now available for you to use. He, like we said, he is a Venezuelan international, you know. So let's see what he can bring. Let's see what Cerro can bring. Let's see what Duilio Herrera can bring in as a starter. I mean, we talked about Duilio Herrera and the impact he had coming in off the bench against Monterey Bay Union. So it's like, okay, let's see what you can bring in once you are a starter going up against your opponent, also having a fresh set of legs, and this time being a bit more of a striker role rather than playing out as an outside back or left wing back per se, or maybe as a winger, you know. So that's the way I saw it. And honestly, like we said before, the roster for this team is thin, and you don't want to risk getting even more players injured. And then now you've run into a situation, you got more injuries. Some of the players that were injured haven't come back, the key ones, you know. And so now your roster is even more reduced going into the USL Championship season, right? So I understood what that's coming from. I don't know if you think anything different, or what are your thoughts on that particular question, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and of course, I think the only difference is I completely like giving players chances in, again, games that mean something but don't mean anything against the league yourself, that you're trying to fight to make the playoffs in order to, well, just compete for the cup. This is why this team is here, is to compete for the USL Championship Cup with, yes, an opportunity to have a shot at the US Open Cup if this team gets lucky or good or whatever in that sense. So basically, just think of it this way for fans. It's RGV FC trying to play their sort of B team because they have that luxury to. They can treat this like a friendly, which is a very, still, in my opinion, a very good thing. You give players a chance to start. I mean, Manancio, we got to see him in action behind goal, giving Tyler Derrick a little bit of a breather for whether or not his hamstring is hurting at one point, or just giving that man rest, giving a couple of players rest. Of course, again, I still believe this, and I didn't get to say this about the Detroit City game, but once again, this team still played better without Pimentel, because we didn't have Mr. Crazy on the field, which is really nice to have a calm, sensible team that knows what the heck they're doing on the pitch when you've got this man that wants to headbutt everybody possible and wants to fight people on the field at the same time. Yeah, I don't care what I'm saying about this man because I don't like him anymore. I really lost all the respect possible, and I'm going to say whatever I want about this man because he doesn't seem like a good guy and won't seem like he changes. Ian Kisner seems like that perfect guy that is in the correct spot, needs to start every match possible as long as he does not get hurt. That is my miniature rant. But yeah, again, you're giving those players extra chemistry, extra time together just in case, and you're trying to build those relationships. And just in case Wilmer Cabrera, now he has that opportunity to mess with the formation a little bit and make sure that, well, if this doesn't work, oh, well, it's not going to hurt him in the standings. And it's something that I saw with the Aggie basketball team with Buzz Williams at the start of the season do that exact same thing. He was working with lineups, working with rosters to see what would fit better. That ended up almost, if the Aggies don't go on that winning streak, they miss the tournament again, he probably gets fired. But that's one thing that now Wilmer Cabrera, without anything, could do without getting his team in trouble.
So, what did you think of the match? For what did you see today in this game against Tormenta?
Well, I saw a bit of sloppiness, but for the most part, RGV FC looked in control for a bit, which is very true. Because yes, they did give up that early goal, but before then, they were going for goal a couple of times. They had opportunities to score and things of that nature. Now, I don't necessarily know. Well, actually, yes, I do know the possession percent, and yes, RGVSC had more possession. 25 shots, 5 shots on target. That's exactly what I saw. I saw them shooting, and yes, there weren't a lot on target, but they were okay in that sense. The only difference was every single time that Tormenta FC shot, it seemed to be on target except for one time. So that's just something that RGVFC were not capable of managing. Were on the counterattacks when it mattered most, that Tormenta FC could burn them, and sure enough did twice.
And how many times have we said counterattacks have been an issue for this team this season? I think minimum another 2 games. I mean, we talked about it against Monterey Bay. We talked about it against Oakland, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, so why has Wilmer not been able to fix this issue? This is a recurring issue that has cost you goals against.
Yeah.
That could have cost you even more goals. Minimum 1 in this game, and another one you had another one in the game against Monterey Bay FC. Similar situations, but just because the opposing team made a bad pass in those key moments, that they weren't able to score against you. Why is this issue so recurrent, and why has Wilmer been unable to fix this as time goes on? To me is the issue.
Yeah. And for my theory of why is because I think he likes the tactic of really a high pressure offense, which it kind of seems like he's pushing up everybody, and so that is leaving that big hole.
But why is it that we didn't have this issue last year?
Because I think we have more players. We had more players that could help out, and the players that could help out are kind of injured right now too. But that is also a thing. And I think with the younger squad that we had on here this evening, that did not help out as well. And same deal with when we've gotten goals scored against us. It's been the case of, well, those times have been tired legs. Yes, being scored against first has just been the Toros not waking up in time and not being ready to go on the counter attack. So I think it's more mental game than we're used to seeing with this team, not really being focused for at least the first half when they do let in a goal. Second half, that's more tired legs than if I had to say anything about it, because we saw it in the first game when it ended up being a 1-1 draw against Oakland. So Wilmer definitely can decide, okay, this isn't working out, let's change this. But I think he likes it, and I think he does see some success in it, and I do too. But I don't think it's a time right now for us to just be pushing that full pressure offense when we keep getting burned off the counterattack time and time again. Just like when you decide to blitz every single play on Madden and then you get burned time and time again, you should probably stop picking that same play.
But that's a problem, man. It's just so frustrating to see that hasn't changed. That continues to be, the Achilles heel for this team. To me, that's on Wilmer.
Yeah. No,
And it's like you
it's
say,
stubborn coaches. Yeah.
and it's like you say, and I refuse to believe. Maybe it's because I don't have any knowledge in coaching soccer or anything, but I refuse to believe Wilmer's mantra that he has repeated so many times in press conferences, saying that in soccer you can either be a good defensive team or a good offensive team, but not both. I
Yeah, you
refuse
don't
to
like
believe
that,
that.
right?
I
Yeah.
refuse to believe that. You have to strive to be the best as you can in both aspects, because
Mhm.
think about it, dude.
Yeah.
RGV FC, if they maintain a good level defensively, we saw it in the first year. They were excellent defensively, and offensively they were decent, right? But at least they generated goals, right? It just seems to me like if you were to describe, it seems to me like the Toros are like a visual representation of the extreme levels of both sides, because this team, it seems to be like they're trying to go for the cohesiveness defensively, but somehow they can't put it into the back of the net, right? And when they try to go be more offensively, they literally leave spaces for the other team to exploit. That there is no balance, at least in my eyes. And as much as I criticize Ricardo Tuca Ferretti from his stint with Tigres, and I felt that this whole disciplined defensive organization was like, it didn't live up to Tigres' potential with the players that they had. But there was some organization, at least, when Tigres was at their best. Obviously, you can't compare the talent level between Tigres and the Toros. But I think the theory works is that, you could have defensive cohesion, right? And still have, some aspects of offensive play, controlling the ball. And to me, I value in a team, especially when you've got a disadvantage as perceived talent, as far as value is concerned, in monetary value, if you know what I'm trying to get at. The Toros aren't a team that is known to get like the players that make a lot of noise in the league, that are well known in the league, right? They're not going to be getting a Forrest Lasso. They're not going to be getting a Solomon Asante, right? They're going to get up and coming players that are cheap, right? So to me, I value in these kind of rosters, I value defensive, cohesion, defensive discipline, but still practice and be able to do something offensively, at least to put the shots in the back of the net when you have that opportunity. I'm not expecting you to have 100% efficiency in front of goal, but at least take advantage of the situations. And in this game, it seemed like RGV, despite what FOTMOB or what the statistics say, that they have, what was it, 87% passing accuracy, Jacob? Is that what it's saying? Yeah, 87% accurate passing for the Toros. It really didn't look like that at all. It really looked like there were so many times where RGVSC made some bad passes close, even with a player that was close by. I don't know if they were nervous. I don't know his tired legs, but they didn't look confident out there on the pitch at times. And if I look at the first goal, right, the goal for Tormenta, one thing catches my eye, and that is we go back to that play that I talked about against Detroit City FC. You know how I said that when you've got a more lethal offense, those mistakes were going to bite you in the butt? Well, that is exactly what happened in this game. Tormenta has a foul in favor for them. Where is that? What minute was it? Okay, here we go. So they call a foul in favor of Tormenta FC, right? And so when they replay the ball, you've got all of your players in your side of the field. They open it up wide, right? He dribbles the ball, sends it over to number 7. And number 7 has, I believe, a double or triple marking because you've got 3 players like right at him. You've got Eric Kinsner going up to put some pressure on that player, passes it back. The other player sends a lobbed through ball, taking advantage of the space that was left wide open by Eric Kinsner, and taking advantage as well of Juan David Cabeza's late reaction to, I want to say it's number 5 that was running into that space. So that player gets the ball, Cabezas goes for him. Then you got another player that runs behind Kinsner and Juan David Cabezas. That ball gets passed with a through ball out into space, right? The thing is, while that is happening, you see that you've got 3 players, 3 Toros defenders inside the box. One of them, which is Nodarse, he's out towards the left side of the field because that's where the play is. So technically, you have 2 defenders, Jonathan Ricketts and Wahab Akwe, up against 3 Tormenta FC attackers. As the play goes on, Wahab Akwe, or number 6, Murphy Jr., who ends up scoring the goal, he makes a run towards the space that gets left by Nodarse, kind of floating out there towards the left. Taylor Davila is looking at this head on. You're seeing that at that point, you've got Akwe. He's got 2 players in his vicinity. Taylor Davila looks at this and doesn't run immediately. There's another delay in his reaction to seeing Murphy Jr. running towards the ball. And by the time he runs, it's too late because Murphy makes contact with that cross, redirects it over Merancio, and it gets it put into the back of the net. You've got a line of 5. How are you that exposed to that kind of miscommunication?
Yeah, no, it's yeah, the miscommunication is going to hurt this team 100%. I mean, you just about said it all, Edson, and it's true. Don't know how the miscommunication is still there, considering there's something called preseason. But again, I'm pretty sure that those were not the lineups that, again, Wilmer expected. Those were not the lineups that these players were expected. And it has been a tougher season, but it's not like we're in COVID. And if you get where I'm coming from with this, Edson, is because when we were in COVID, we had to be separated. Everybody's together. Everybody most likely on this team is living in very close quarters, practicing together, being in the same locker room together. Yet, for some strange reason, they're not simpatico. They're not on this extra level that we've seen these teams in years prior be. But again, it did take a little bit longer for these teams to also be in that same level. I mean, we talked about it last year too. How did this team start? Started okay, started about the same here, if not just a little bit better, and then started to fall midway through the season, and we found ourselves in last place. So it's one of those things where, thankfully, this season is like a hockey season where it's like 80-something games or just below that. My point is there's a lot of time still left, and yes, we are very much upset with how it is going now. I at least know that there's more time and that these teams or that these players have to be talking to each other, especially now, saying, look, this is where I want it. this is where I want the soccer ball to go. This is what I want you to do on the defensive side, because I want to be here as well. Like, these are the types of talks that I want every single player to have, while whether or not they're eating pasta or whatever, because you're finally going to, as a defender, with your other defender buddy, as your other defender teammate, you're going to know what this player wants you to necessarily do, not just what the coach wants you to do. And as an attacker, as a winger, you're going to know exactly where to place the ball for your false nine, for your number 9, for your defender that's about to score the goal, because apparently our defenders are awesome at doing that too, our midfielders too. Because, well, we got another player that can't necessarily score a goal just yet. It will be okay. He's got time to get used to this, but again, he's got to get used to it now. So, yes, a lot of moving parts still need to be fixed, but that is why it is soccer. That is why there's a season. I think you're muted.
I mean, it's not like they're playing with a defensive line that has never played with each other.
Yeah.
Eric Kinson already has a couple of minutes playing with this line. He played against Detroit City FC with this line, except for Gabriel Benitez, obviously. Right? But when 4 out of 5 players have already played some game minutes with each other, you would assume that they would have a more communication with each other, more synchrony with each other in certain specific scenarios. They'd be more aware of their surroundings, of what's going on with the opposing attackers. And really, in that play, they did not show that. And they're going to have to, clearly, they're going to have to fix that. Yeah. Because if Wilmer really wants to be this team that is going to be solid defensively, I mean, they got a lot of work on it, a lot of work on in that aspect. Then in the second half, RGV continued to dominate this game. But we went back to this whole situation of shots off target. And then you had a clear opportunity in the 69th or in the 70th minute. Nice. 69. It was 69, right? Because it was 68. It was like late in the 69th minute when Taylor Davila has the opportunity to equalize with a penalty kick. The problem is that I feel like maybe Taylor Davila probably gave it away where he was shooting at, and that is kudos to the keeper. But the rebounds, dude. The rebounds lands right in front of him. It gets back where he was. The keeper was already down on the ground. And yet he shot it wide off of the goal. Mm-hmm. I think I just saw Mike in the chat right now say, why did Taylor Davila shoot the ball or shoot the penalty? I mean, the only other two, okay. Who would be viable to shoot a penalty for RGV FC, considering the players that were on the field? At that time, you had Wilmer Jr., Ricky Reese, you had Robert Coronado, obviously Taylor Davila, Juan David Cabezas, if I'm not mistaken, was still on the field when that happened. And I want to see who was it Duilio still in it? Because there were a lot of substitutions. I think they had up to 5, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. Yeah. But out of all of those, who do you think would have been better to shoot the penalty? At this point, the way things are going, I would have given it to Davila. Why? He's coming off of 2 straight games scoring a goal.
With a goal. It makes complete sense for him to take that penalty. It also makes complete sense for Wilmer Cabrera Jr. to take that penalty.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The point I was trying to make in summary was the fact that right now the player that comes with the biggest momentum offensively was Taylor Davila.
Yeah.
So of course you're gonna have to give the penalty to the one who's in their best moment, and that is definitely Davila at this point. Like I said, maybe he couldn't stand the pressure. I don't know. To me, I think that was all. That was, you got to give some credit to the keeper, because it's very difficult for a keeper, even when they kind of have an idea where that ball is going to go. It's usually very hard for, even when they guess, to be able to make it, because honestly, that shot was, let me double check. Well, no, it wasn't close to the post, and it was kind of mid-level, but still, even like that, even when you guess, and to me, it doesn't even look that tall. This goalkeeper doesn't look that tall. The fact that he was still able to get to that ball, you got to give kudos to the penalty. Whether it's because maybe, like I said, Taylor Davila kind of gave him the freedom or the advantage of, okay, this is where the ball is going to go, with, but not every goalkeeper picks up those cues to identify what the player is thinking at the moment when he's going to shoot. What is more questionable is how he interacted, or the decision making with that rebound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's always a way, because I've seen it so many times. We've seen it so many times where, yes, you get a rebound, you want to you want to one time it, you want to strike it right, like as a volley, and more than likely you're going to sky it. You're going to make it go over the goal. It's going to be difficult instead of taking a touch, but you feel like you have to shoot it. You have to have that time. Of course, I'm not in their mind or anything like that, but that's what I'd guess. And so it definitely is one of those situations where you do question what they're doing, but could have been worse, or it could have been better. It could have been in the back of the net. And I guess the worst thing could have been you get it taken away right at your feet, counterattack goal.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get back to the comment that I mentioned was made on our Facebook video. And this is from Claudia Flores. First of all, thank you for tuning in on Facebook to the Down in the Valley podcast. I hope to see you more frequently in the chat on the show, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, or even or on Twitch too. But she says, I agree. Last week's game was terrible, and tonight's too. If this was Europe, coach would be sacked. So real football fans are tough and critical. I love the Toros, but losing to a Division 3 is not acceptable, not okay. Terrible passing and no playing making needs to be fixed.
Meh. I put it this way for at least one of the comments that she made. Losing to a Division 3 team is unacceptable. Well, there's a thing called madness, but there's also a thing called where, like, you see this a lot. The upper clubs decide to play their bench warmers a lot more to give them more minutes. So most likely there is a chance for an upset to happen more frequently, especially in an Open Cup, an FA Cup, or anything like of that nature. Even, of course, the Checkered Trophy Cup, which to me is at more of the level of where we are than of basically an FA Cup. Yes, it's a lot more similar. The Open Cup is a lot more similar to the FA Cup, but at that same time, it's just not at the same level, if I had to say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the win the last Saturday was good. It was a road victory. You don't get to say a road or see a road victory that often, if I had to say so myself. But who knows? We could go undefeated on the road and still be technically undefeated at home, which would be insane. Just keep on getting draws at home and keep getting wins on the road would be something out of just craziness. But yes, other than that, yeah, there's so much that still needs to be done with this team. I think Wilmer Cabrera Jr. definitely, or not Jr., sorry, Wilmer Cabrera
Senior.
Sr. is definitely, well, we've said it before, actually. He's on the hot seat, whatever. He'll probably be here next year, even if we miss the playoffs. That's just my guess. Because he hasn't done a bad thing with this club yet, as in missing the playoffs with this club yet. Every single time he's been here, he's done good with the club. So that is the only sort of difference maker. But what I'm trying to get at is just it's up to coach to change tactics sometimes, and it's up to the players to get their act together a little bit more. They got this week. They have this week to keep practicing and get rest now. Once they come back from Tormenta FC, I suppose to see a lot of just resting and, of course, making sure that they know the plan for next Saturday at Pittsburgh when they do travel to Pittsburgh because of the 3 straight home games, 3 straight road games.
So I want to touch up real quick before we finalize. We're not going to have predictions like you just said. We have one more week or more than a week. It's till our next match. But I do want to touch up on some comments that were made on the YouTube chat. Alan Carrillo says, Wilmer Jr. has a lot of almost goals, but almost goals don't win games. Exactly.
Yep.
Abraham Moreno says, what's up, Edson and Jacob? Love the away jersey up close. Not a fan of it from the box. I agree. And I think even the commentators for this game against Tormenta made the comment that you can't really tell the white numbers from afar. Yep. I don't know. It could have been better to have used black numbers, and considering the fact that, you've got black accents on the shirt, as you can see right here on the sleeves. The pixel pattern is also in black. Maybe that would have been a better contrast under the lights at the stadium. But yeah, at least in the broadcast, considering the fact that there's not a lot of bandwidth to work with, so it's not going to be super high definition. I know they broadcasted on 1080p, but I'm pretty sure the bitrate was kind of low, so the resolution or the image quality wasn't as great as, for example, if it was on the air broadcast like with MLS or any other higher league, especially considering the fact that this broadcast was done by the team and not by Turner Sports, Bleacher Report, yada yada yada, for reasons we've already talked about in previous episodes. So that was one of the things that was mentioned, and I agree with them. I think, to me, at least from where the cameras were on the broadcast, it was kind of hard to kind of make out the number. And then let me see. Joe Granson says, with the current situation, no longer being in the U.S. Open Cup is a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. Considering the situation, it sounds terrible to say, because obviously as a fan you want your team to win every tournament that you're participating in, but given the circumstances, and I said it on the chat in the game broadcast, I said, given the situation, I would prefer to just focus on the USL Championship, because we don't have a big roster to handle playing 2 tournaments at 100%. And then Costless Titan says, Toro's front office should send Jacob a Pimentel jersey.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'll hang it up in my room. That'd be great.
Mike says the Toros didn't even want to play this game. The passing in today's match was awful, like no mames. can't score, not even in PKs. And then when we made the question about who should have kicked the PK, he says Ricky. I think that would have been my number 2.
Yeah. Yeah, my honest answer, yes, would have been also Ricky as well. I was making a joke with Wilmer Cabrera Jr., but honestly, maybe give him a chance. I'm not even kidding anymore. Maybe he took a lot of shots at penalties in college. Of course, we would have to look that up, but that's sort of a possibility.
So, and then Mike says, you start Wilmer 3 games in a row and don't give him the chance. That means he shouldn't start. You have no trust. I get where you're coming from, Mike, but I do feel that some players are more talented with shooting penalty kicks than others. So I think maybe Wilmer Jr. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen them practice, but maybe Wilmer Jr. just isn't a good penalty kick taker.
Yeah.
And so it's not that they don't trust him to, despite him. Well, actually, I take it back. I think what I'm trying to say is that it's not a fact like, oh, because he can't take the PK, he shouldn't start. It's just the fact that maybe he's not good at taking PKs, but I don't know because I haven't seen them practice PKs personally for me to say, oh, he's good at PK taking or he's not good at PK taking. The only one that knows is Wilmer Cabrera, and the fact that he let Taylor Davila says, number 1, he went with the fact that he has, like I mentioned, he has the motivation right now. And number 2, maybe Davila is a better penalty kick taker than Wilmer Cabrera Jr. At the moment. And by the way, we actually have a special hello, Jacob. Chelo Martinez, former RGV FC player who is currently now with my favorite USL League One team, Forward Madison, #Fulmingo. He dropped by into the chat and says hi. So Chelo, I hope you're doing well, man, and wishing you the best of luck over there in Forward Madison. I should go ahead and bring my Forward Madison shirt because I actually have mine. My dad says, like Joe said, better not be playing open. It's better to not be playing Open Cup. 100% agree. Mike says, so here's something interesting. Mike says, Wilmer scored nothing but PKs in college. Go look at the highlights.
There we go. There's our answer. Thank you, Mike.
And then, yeah, go ahead.
Even though, yes, college PKs are different than USL PKs, like MLS PKs different than USL, and so on and so forth. But again, the pressure is still there where you set up, you do your routine, and then you take it. So, yeah, not giving Wilmer Cabrera Jr. a try, huh? Now, all of a sudden, that's going to be a fun thing to dissect for me. Just in general, there's going to be a great theory coming up next week then about that because, man, you don't allow him to get a shot. So that's at least number 3 or number 2.
But
we don't know what's happening in practice though. But at the same time, if he's taking those penalties, let him try it in the game. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, I mean,
he skies it.
I get your point. I just don't want to get into this whole territory of speculating on what we don't know, like on what we see on in practice.
That's all we do, Edson. We speculate.
Well, yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is that in those individual aspects, I mean, we're speculating already as to why it was Taylor Davila, and I mean it makes sense. Because of the evidence that we have available at our disposal. When we're making a claim about why Wilmer Jr. isn't taking the penalty kick, we don't have that much concrete evidence as to why that made why they made the decision to not have Wilmer Jr. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like there's a difference between speculating, but using knowledge that you have at your disposal, and speculating, just pretty much, throwing the dart in a dark room and you have no idea where you're throwing it, right? And you're just hoping that it sticks. And to me, I'm trying to not go in that direction. But I mean, if anybody else, thinks that, they're more than welcome to talk about it and say it. Like I said, everyone's opinion here in the Down in the Valley podcast in the chat is welcome. But at least for me, I prefer trying to give my speculation based on more concrete evidence than just trying to make assumptions with very little evidence. But Claudia Flores responded again on Facebook. She says, I was just very disappointed with play against Monterey Bay and this game. I've calmed down now. Okay, the coach can stay. And then laughing emoji. I love the Toros and hope we can finally get a win at home. Don't get me wrong, Claudia. I think we're all on the same boat here. We love the Toros. That's why we're here, united together in on this video. Talking about the Toros, because it shows that we care about this team and want this team to succeed. And we're worried about why this team isn't producing offensively, why they're making mistakes defensively, why we want this team to be successful. We want this team to win. We want more people to be at the stadium, and that is completely fine. That's what we're here for. I just feel like I said, that there's a lot of improvements to be done, and as Jacob said, if this doesn't improve, Wilmer's going to be back in the hot seat like he was in the middle of the season last year. Do I think that they'll probably fire him? I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
Because if he has a long-term contract, they're gonna have to buy him out. And from what I hear, he's not cheap. He's not getting paid $30,000. I don't know exactly how long the contract is. I don't know exactly, how much he's being paid. But the fact that he has 2 jobs with RGV FC, which is sporting director and head coach, he's probably, charging a hefty penny to Alonso Cantu. And so if you fire him, well, you're going to have to compensate him for finishing up the contract early if it is a more than a 3-year contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And right now, the way we're seeing how RGVFC's financials seem to be with the decision of the players that they're trying to bring in, and the fact that, honestly, the attendance hasn't been that great. It's improving, but the past couple of years, they weren't that great, especially because you got COVID. And then you earn independence, so people were very skeptical about what this team was going to do without the Houston Dynamo. In 2021, they make it to the playoffs. They make it to the second round. They get eliminated by San Antonio FC, but they made it to the playoffs. So people were a bit more confident in this team. More people started going. The front office started making some positive changes in their marketing to get. They started, using all these little packages and promotions to get people into the stadium. But I think I saw an article, and we've mentioned this before, that very few teams in the USL Championship are actually making a profit. So you can assume that RGV is going to be a team that is losing money, right? So, but what I was getting at is, I think whether we want to or not, Wilmer Cabrera is here to stay, at least until the end of his contract.
Yes.
So the thing is that we as fans, we have to be vocal in what we don't like. I mean, we can't just be sitting here like little seals just clapping at everything that Wilmer does or the players do. It's like, if something needs to be criticized, like, for example, if you see players that are not, you can tell they're not giving their 100%. Well, yeah, you're going to be like, why are you doing that? Right? Be respectful, right? Don't do what I did with Wilmer Jr. in 2018 and call him Pecho Frio,
Mm-hmm.
But be active. Be active about this team. Let the front office know that this fan base is loyal, is active, and that there is a market on social media of people talking about this team. And we've been trying to build this community since 2017, and it's been a slow process, but we're finally seeing some kind of fruits of our efforts in this last couple of years, and we can only go higher, you know. So I mean, we're here for the fans, and it's by fans too. Like we mentioned before, we have nothing to do with RGV FC front office. So what you see, as far as our opinions, is what you get. We have no influence from front office, players, coaching staff on any opinions that we give in this show, and that's what makes it so beautiful as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're gonna go ahead and call this episode for this week, because we're almost gonna be at 2 hours once again. But I think, today, I mean, we had 2 games to talk about. But Jacob, give us your final thoughts before we go.
Final thoughts. That's going to be an interesting season. Going to be an interesting break for this team before heading off to Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think there's more hope than we're thinking for this team, but then again, just players have to come back from being injured. It goes as simple as that. So that'll be interesting to see.
Guys, first of all, thank you so much for being loyal Toros fans. Thank you for anybody new that has discovered the Down in the Valley podcast. We appreciate. I hope you guys enjoyed our content, or enjoyed our discussions. Like I said, we're here to give you guys a platform to talk about the team, to know other Toros fans out there, and let's grow this network. I appreciate all of your support and the confidence and the trust for allowing us, me or Jacob and I, to bring you all information, to bring you all discussion about the Toros. And if you guys missed any part of this episode, you can always check out the Down in the Valley podcast archive, which happens right after the stream ends. You're able to access the whole show, or you can check out the Down in the Valley podcast on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, wherever your favorite podcasting platform is. The audio version is available right there. Be sure to follow us on our social media at Down in the RGV on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and join in on the discussion. And you can also follow our personal accounts. For me, it's at Ochoa_8 on Instagram and on Twitter. Jacob, your social media?
You all can find me on Twitter at JacobYoung456. By the way, Shadow will follow me. Don't know why you keep adding me but not following me. But yeah, in all seriousness, yes, JacobYoung456 on Twitter, and really that's basically the only platform that I use to just do opinions and other things like that. And then YouTube, yeah, the Overreacted Gamer. Have a fun vlog out. It's pretty cool. My NASCAR experience. It's one of my best, honestly, in my opinion, for the VODs. That was pretty cool. And hopefully more of those to come. Maybe I'll be back for the Cup race in Texas. Who knows, this year? And of course, we'll try my hardest to save up for Daytona next year, but that's a long time from now. But yeah, Jake Young456 on Twitter and the Overreacted Gamer on YouTube.
So just a couple of things right before we go. Alan Carrillo says, if you could trade 3 players with other USL teams, who would you get rid of and who would you go after? I'm going to have to get back with you on that probably next week, because I think it's going to be hard for me to tell you who I want to go after, considering the limitations of financials, the fact that maybe not a lot of players would like to come down to the Rio Grande Valley because, this isn't a metropolis like Memphis or Sacramento. You
get a lot of players like from Miami. There you go.
But I know the 3 players that I would trade away would be Cristiano Francois. We know that Duilio Herrera is going to be going to college, so really wouldn't be possible.
Pimentel, trade him.
Yes, Pimentel. So you can get something from Pimentel because of his experience. I say go for it. Cristiano Francois, and maybe, I don't know, I might actually...
Possibly JDC for me.
I highly doubt that would be possible because of his age.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe because he's close to retirement. I don't think a lot of other teams would want to have him for less than a year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but honestly, the thing is that we don't have a lot that we're going to be willing to give away because of how short our roster is. And then he says, this podcast has made me a Toros fan from Chicago. Alan, thank you. As I said, I'm glad that we have made that kind of impact. And like I said, you're always welcome to be on the shows. And hopefully you can make the trip down here to the Rio Grande Valley. You know, we will be receiving you with open arms here at HB Park. Costless Titan says, I know USSF is a clown show, but would you think they send money to the lower leagues like USL Championship to keep them afloat?
No.
Rochester, New York FC just went down. And that's because they're in MLS Next Pro. They let them go down. We've already lost Fresno. We've already lost Reno 1868. We've already lost a lot of teams in the USL Championship level. And USSF didn't. Yeah, OKC Energy. And they did nothing. They did nothing for them to keep them afloat. So I don't expect anything like that to change. They are not, because USL is not single entity, as far as I know. It's going to be it's harder for the league to be like, oh, we'll try to keep them afloat. It's all the responsibility of the individual owners. So I don't see that happening. Abraham says, nice plug of the podcast in the Open Cup chat, Edson. I tried my best. I tried my best to get, because I know I saw a lot of YouTube accounts that were cheering for the Toros that I don't think I've ever seen here. So I was trying to lure them in. I don't know how many actually came and watched, but hey, at least I tried something. Mike says, trade Wilmer Jr. for Kyle Edwards. You have to remember
that before, though.
Yeah, but you have to remember that Wilmer Jr. is here on a loan. So the only thing that would get him away from the Toros is if he goes back to Real Cartagena in Colombia. Sloth says, joined a little bit late, but good show, guys. Thank you so much, Sloth. By the way, Sloth, did you end up going to Detroit City FC match? Because I know some of the Stampede say they saw a Toros flag. I'm just not sure if that was you, but I know you mentioned in last week's episode that you were going to make the trip over to Detroit. And then Mike says, Christians or trade for Christian Sorto or trade Ricky right now that he has some value. I mean, I would try to avoid getting rid of players that are actually producing value, and try to get rid of the players that aren't producing for you, and to try to add. You know, that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm thinking of. I don't know, Jacob, real quick, if that's what you're thinking.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot that I'm thinking, and sometimes I'm not thinking about anything. But besides that, it's just, yeah, it's a tough topic for sure. Who would you trade? Who would you keep, or who would you trade for, and things like that. Very much a possibility to do that, but again, I mean, it's all hypothetical, and be tough.
Definitely, man. Guys, that's going to be it for this week. We'll see you all next Wednesday at 8 p.m. We will be back on regular time. Like I said, we're going to be live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. So I hope to see you guys, all of the new people, all the newbies, welcome, and hope to see you all next week. And for all of the supporters that have been here for a while, once again, thank you so much. Hope to see you all next week, and enjoy your bye week this weekend. I know that there's going to be a meet and greet at an academy. Is it an academy, right?
Yeah.
With Eric Pimentel and Jonathan Ricketts. So costless Titan. If I were you, I'd wear some body armor on your chest.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to. Let's hope you don't get headbutted by Eric Pimentel. Just joking around, guys. Last thing I want is to get the Faitelson treatment. If you guys don't know what that is, be sure to YouTube Cuauhtemoc Blanco versus David Faitelson, and you will understand exactly what I'm referring to. But guys, we'll see y'all next week. Take care, and let's go Toros.